The idea of an assembly of all nation-states was the next logical step. This first became a reality in 1920 with the founding of the League of Nations. The main flaw of this first approach to international collaboration was the fact that the United States, by then already one of the most important countries, was not one of their members. Thus this first attempt to build a community of nations failed, and was brought to a complete standstill by World War II. But what exactly is a nation? Common criteria are territory, language, culture, and government. This seems to be pretty straightforward, but only at first sight. If you look at the existing nations and their reality, there are many cases where you start to wonder about the clarity of the concept of a nation-state. Take territory. The Kurds and the Tibetans claim to be a nation without a territory. Take language. Belgium, Spain, India, and Switzerland are just a few examples of nations with several official languages. On the other hand, there are 53 nation-states with the same official language of English. The criterion of culture is even more difficult to grasp, since there are conflicting definitions of what culture exactly is. Besides, the system of nation-states is far from being stable. Changes happen constantly. There are a few cases of reunifications. Hong Kong, Germany, and maybe soon the two parts of Korea, for example. But all in all, there is more proliferation than unification happening in the realm of nation-states, and we may wonder where this will take us to. The Soviet Union, Czechoslovakia, and East Timor are just a few examples of this trend that will probably also continue into the future. The number of independent nation-states has been on the rise constantly. In 1977, there were 145 nation-states. In 2007, there were 195 nation-states. It might well be that a historic mega-trend of increasing fragmentation of nation-states is going on that only future historians will recognize as such. The successor of the League of Nations is the United Nations that we all know today. The United Nations organization was founded in 1946, and in terms of membership, it is a tremendous success. The target group of the United Nations organization is governments of nation-states. Over the last few decades, almost all of them could be convinced that joining the club is a good thing. In 2008, there are 195 countries on Earth. 2 of them, West Sahara and Antarctica, cannot join because they do not have a recognized government, and another country, Taiwan, would be a member if mainland China would allow it. It has often been said that the United Nations might be something like a pre-stage to a world government. However, there are lots of reasons to doubt this. There is an enormous democratic deficit built into the United Nations system of today. Each government has one vote, no matter whether it represents over 1 billion people like China, or only 300,000 people like Luxembourg. And above all, why should national politicians give up their power base to a global governing body? But the reality of today's global politics is more complex in any case. Today, there is a multi-layer system of intergovernmental communication and coordination, of which the United Nations organization is just a small part. This system is by nature not monolithic at all, and could even be called chaotic and uncoordinated. No federal system has ever been drafted, discussed, and then decided upon in the manner of national constitutions. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but the question is this good enough to cope with today's global challenges? In the year 2000, the Millennium Development Goals were introduced by the United Nations and were approved by a majority of national governments. For a split second in human history, it looked like the unity of mankind could be just around the corner. But how many people in the rich nations know about the Millennium Development Goals? According to opinion surveys, not many at all. If voters in Europe and North America don't care, then their governments don't care. And if the governments don't care, the Millennium Development Goals most likely will not be reached.